Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so excited for today's video because I'm finally giving you guys the thing that I have been saying I am going to give you for months now. And that is my favorite books of 2024. I have my coffee right here next to me. I have my computer with all my books written down on it. Let's just get into it, shall we? So, the first book I have is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This book is insane. I think it is the first book I read of 2024. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. And it is basically about a home nursing assistant, Kit, who takes a job at a house where an alleged murder happened decades ago. There are, kind of like, this is the type of thing that you would hear on like a playground, like these kind of murders that like little kids talk about. I guess in this world, I don't remember talking about murders as a little kid, but in this world, the kids talked about it. It was like an urban legend. That's the word I'm looking for. This house and these murders are like urban legend. Oh my god. Would you say that they were suburban legends? Let's see. A home nursing assistant, Kit, she takes the job at the house and she is looking after the alleged murderer, Lenora. Now, Lenora is pretty much completely handicapped and she just has to be her caregiver. However, when Kit gets to know Lenora, things don't start adding up. It gets crazy. This book reminds me of like a classic literature story that I would read in like high school or in like my first couple years of college. So good. Very much reminded me of The Fall of the House of Usher. Reminded me of Turn of the Screw also. I don't know why. It just kind of had that just like classic literature feel to it while also kind of giving it this like modern twist that Riley Sager does. I love Riley Sager books. I would recommend any of them to somebody who wants to get into like horror/thriller. Next up, I have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and this book follows Alex Stern. She is this girl from LA who kind of is involved in crime rings, and she is the sole survivor of a homicide. And while she is in the hospital healing, she gets a visitor from someone from Yale, and they basically say, hey, we have this opportunity for you. We know you have some special gifts and we would like to include you into our societies if you come to Yale with us and you can like restart your whole life. It's insane. It's insane. It's really good. It's a good story about friendship, occult society, and just crazy secret societies that go on in just upper class, social circles. It's all about that kind of stuff. So it's pretty fun. I thought the pace was amazing. I thought like the story was amazing. I would recommend this book to anybody, but please check trigger warnings before you read it. Check trigger warnings. It does get a little crazy. The thing that really made this book so special for me was the characters. Our main character, she's so self-aware, and I feel like this is very much a book where she isn't pretending to be perfect. This character, she knows she has done some not so amazing things in her life, and she's aware of that, and she doesn't, think she deserves anything special. In fact, I think a part of this book is kind of her resenting the special treatment that she's getting at Yale. So it's insane. It's a really good book. Again, check trigger warnings if you want to read it, but I highly, highly, highly recommend. Also, the other characters, I think all the characters in this book had such distinct personalities, and they were all there for a reason. I love a book where all the characters are there for a specific reason, and this was just one of those books. So the next book I wrote down is a fantasy, probably one of my favorite fantasies of the year next to Ninth House. It is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and this book is about Ophelia, who, in order to find her sister, she enters Phantasma, which is a deadly and devilish competition. Mansion where Phantasma takes place is a place that has ghosts, phantoms, devils, all of these supernatural negative ambient is that a word? Ambient? There's a negative ambience to this book. Ambient, whatever. Basically, it is a high stakes trial and games book. I love these kinds of books. The only rule in Phantasma is you cannot fall in love. So what do you think happens? What do you think happens? But I love this book. The imagery was insane. I also read this book around Halloween time, which I feel like was the perfect time to read it. It was such like a spooky book. Like, it was horrific in the term of horror. And I loved it. I love the plot of it. The plot was so addicting. The pace was amazing. All in all, very, very good. Now the next book I have is Funny Story by Emily Henry. You guys knew it would be a matter of time before I talked about this. you guys knew. So this book is about Daphne, who is engaged to a man named Peter, and he is in love with his childhood best friend Petra. And they break up, they end the engagement. So you know, Daphne, since she ends her engagement, she loses her house, her apartment, she has to move out. Who else would she live with other than Petra's ex, Miles? And basically they kind of start fake dating to make Peter and Petra jealous and all this, but it kind of becomes more clear. Is it fake or is it not? I love a fake dating book. Oh my god, I love fake dating so much. Without holding her to such a high expectation, because I feel like Emily Henry is nearing that point where, like, unfortunately, but fortunately, I guess, every single book of hers, like, people are gonna be hypercritical of people. Like, I don't know, I just feel like there is such an expectation on her to deliver for every single book. And, like, usually I would sit here and say, you know, that's not possible as a writer. Like, you cannot constantly you can't always, like, outdo your last performance, and that's totally fine, but, like, she somehow always does. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I also love the forced proximity of this. I loved the characters. I don't even know if I would call it forced proximity. I don't know, I think they kind of liked being, like, living together and stuff. So, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? The next book I have is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I just want to say this year I discovered Abby Jimenez. Oh my god. You guys weren't lying. You guys weren't playing when it came to Miss Abby. That's all I'm gonna say. She's amazing. So this book is about Justin, who is cursed. He meets someone, they date, they break up, she finds her soulmate. And he posts about it on Reddit. And once she reads the Reddit page, Emma, she realizes, hey, I'm the exact same way. She realizes, hey, I'm the same. I date someone, we break up, and then they find their soulmate right after me. Crazy, crazy. So she is a traveling nurse, and then she gets a job offer to move to Minnesota, which is where Justin lives. So the two kind of scheme and come up with the idea that, hey, if we date each other and then we break up, we will find our soulmates right after. Do you guys see where this is going? Anyway, loved it. I really have never heard of a romance story like this before. It was so original. I don't know, maybe there is something out there that exists that's like this, but, like, I really have never read anything like this before. It was so good. It was so cute. And I think that's how a lot of her books kind of are. I don't know. I mean, I read part of Your World, and I read part of Yours Truly. I have to finish that book. And, like, I don't know. I feel like they're all so original in their own way, and I love that, but, like, this one especially, I don't know, it was amazing. And something I kind of noticed about Abby Jimenez as an author is, like, I feel like there's so much attention to detail in her stories. I feel like everything she says, it's all there for a reason, and it is just so emotional and intentional, and that's kind of how I would describe her as a writer. I think she's very intentional with her writing. Like, there's so many authors that have a niche with their writing. I think Elsie Silver, who I'm going to talk about in a second, her scenery is amazing. Emily Henry, like, her wit in all of her books and her humor is, I think, what, you know, really takes it home. And for Miss Jimenez, I think what takes her books to the next level is the emotion and the intention behind her books, and I think you can really tell that, and this story did not lack in that department at all. Next, I have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. I loved this story so much. It is basically about a singer who books a trip to a small scenic town, meets a single dad with 2 young kids. And she kind of can't stay there, although she wants to, because she has complicated family dynamics. And I don't know, I think this book is one of those books where I really, really, really felt for our main character. I think her story is incredible, and the things that she kind of went through in this book are incredible, or really things that she went through before in this book are incredible. Due to her complicated family relations, she can't stay even though she wants to. And this book, it's like, there's such a romance plot, don't get me wrong, like, it is a romance, but, like, I love how the main character, she just really, like, finds herself and prioritizes herself, and it's just one of those stories where, like, the woman is prioritizing herself for the very first time in her life, and you can tell, and that's so clear, and it's just so beautiful to read and to witness. I love this book. This book will always have such a special place in my heart. So good. Even the first book, Wild Love, was really, really good, and I read that too this year. It was amazing, but I think this one was my favorite out of the two so far. Next, I have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, and 2024, if you couldn't tell already, was definitely my fantasy year. I really found so many fantasy books that I love this year. One Dark Window is one of those books. I never read a book like this before. It has such a gothic element to it that I am absolutely in love with. This book, along with the sequel, two of the best books I've read this year. Hands down. This book takes place in a world where those who are infected by the mist are hunted and killed, and this story follows Elspeth, a young woman who is secretly infected. Nobody can know, or else she will... That's all. And her infection manifests into a voice called the Nightmare, and the Nightmare is an ancient spirit who possesses magical abilities. And then Elspeth meets the Highwayman, who is the king's nephew, Raven, and together they kind of have to reunite the Province card deck. The Province cards are these magical cards that kind of run the kingdom, and if you unite them all, that can cure the mist and the infections, and it's just this whole race against time. But Elspeth learns that magic comes at a cost, and, you know, things aren't always as simple as they seem in that regard. I loved this book. This book was another one where every single character had a purpose, every single character had a distinct voice, had a distinct figure, I think, in this book. And I don't know, I think this book really resonated with me in this political climate that we are currently in. I just felt there's such a strong connection between this whole hypocrisy that kind of comes along in the book. As you'll see, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's just this book where I feel like, without spoiling it, without saying too much, it's kind of like it's a crime until the big man does it type thing, and I don't know, I think it's a plot that resonates so much with today's climate. It's great. It's an amazing book, and the sequel is just as good too. I love the sequel. I think I might have loved the sequel even more, but I don't want to talk about the sequel because, you know, don't want to spoil this book. Read them both for yourself. They are amazing. So good. And then the last book I want to talk about is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This book was probably my favorite thriller of the year. It was so good. This book is about a podcaster named Alex who goes to a bar for her birthday. And while she was at the bar, she meets a woman named Josie who is also celebrating her birthday. They have the same birthday. So Alex is kind of called to ask her to go on her podcast and talk about being birthday twins, talk about her life. Alex's podcast is about women who live different lives and, you know, that kind of stuff. So Alex asked Josie to do a podcast series with her, but when they do the podcast, Alex slowly starts to realize, hey, this woman, something's going on. There is some drama here, some red flags. Alex's family starts to become at risk. It is insane. I have thought about this book so much since I've read it. It is so amazing. And I also love the multimedia formatting of this book. I love books that, you know, they're books, but they're kind of like written as podcasts or as scripts or as TV shows. I don't know. It's crazy. And that's how If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio was too. Like, some of it was in script or in like Shakespearean script, and I loved that book too. I guess you could include that as an honorable mention. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio was such a good book. Loved that one as well. But for None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, definitely check content warnings before you pick that book up. It is another one that talks about some very heavy stuff. So please just check those and enjoy. It's such a good book. Please enjoy. It's so good. Okay, so that kind of wraps it up for me. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for listening to my favorite books of 2024. I have already read such amazing books in 2025. I really think that this year is going to be an amazing year for reading, and I cannot wait to be here a year later telling you guys about all the books that I will read in 2025. It's going to be so fun. I cannot wait for this year. Thank you guys for being so patient with this video. I know I've kind of said I would do something like this for a while, and I'm happy that I finally am doing it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.